Hi, welcome to the Leader's Edge, how to sharpen your competitive advantage and make a positive impact as a leader in your organization and community. I'm Emily Chiwa, and this is Georgia Donaldson. We are leadership coaches and hosts of this show. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Dionne Guishard. Dionne is the CEO of Families in Action, and she'll be sharing with us on the topic of balancing leading with self care. So before we bring on Dion, I'd like you to think about self care and what that means to you. Some of us push this aside and we want to do everything for everyone else, usually. Mostly women do that, but I think men too. And giving ourselves breadcrumbs or whatever might be left is what we think is enough, just to keep us going. And some of us even think that self care is self indulgence and sort of like has to be this grand thing that we do, like a mini day or the spa or even a big vacation, which could be, a bit of self care too. But, I'm not sure that's what we mean by today's conversation. So I'd like to offer that what gives you a sense of well being might be something you want to think about. Tiny habits that help you to have to give your self care during the course of every day, right? So maybe before meetings, taking a breath, doing things like that might be all you need sometimes to just slow things down and give yourself that minute to think and before you act. So as you think about this, let's bring on Dionne to hear her story about and lessons on this idea of balancing leadership and leading with self-care. So Dionne, you're up.
Thank you, Emily, and good morning to both you and Georgia. And thank you so much for having me to discuss this really critical topic, I think, on how self care should be an integral and deliberate part of any leadership journey. And I think a good starting point is acknowledging that every one of us is a leader in some aspect of our lives, whether it's in our families, as parents, as older siblings, sometimes as children who are charged with the care of elder parents. We now become leaders in our social lives. We are the leader in our friends groups or other social groups that we create within our communities, and of course the more traditional organizational leadership roles as myself, as CEO, as managers, leadership coaches like yourselves, consultants, business owners, and the list goes on. And in my opinion, we speak about the traditional sense of leadership is that a leader is someone who influences, and that tends to be the key characteristic of leadership. But I want to pivot and say that the key characteristic of leadership is actually decision making. What research has shown is that as regular individuals, the average individual makes something like 35,000 decisions daily. So, from the moment we open our eyes in the morning, or rather from that moment when the alarm goes off, we now make the decision: do I set it to snooze or do I get off the bed and exercise? To that moment in the night when we decide between, do I watch an extra episode of that Netflix series I'm binge watching, or do I go to bed? All of those are decisions. And this is actually compounded for leaders because, on top of the personal decisions we must make, we are now making decisions for the persons that we lead. And those decisions tend to be strategic as well as mundane. And of course, what's the heightened? I think that there's an implication for this heightened decision making. It's actually twofold. One, as leaders, we fall into what I want to term the superhero trap.
Yeah.
We often believe that we are superhuman, and the people around us do not stop us from that belief, right? Because they call us superhuman. Oh, look, superwoman, she could do it all, that kind of thing. We start believing that we must always be available, always be productive, always problem solve. And this is actually very unrealistic, and it's a harmful mindset because as human beings, we are, well, first of all, we are human beings, right? We
Yes.
Yes.
are human beings.
Yes. Thank you,
So we
Dion.
must
We
start with
tend to
that.
forget that sometimes.
Yes, we are human beings, and that's why that superhero trap is indeed a trap. And fatigue to burnout just like everyone else. The second implication of the magnitude of decisions that we make is decision fatigue. And this is a result of the constant pressure to make choices, to make decisions every day. It takes a toll on our mental and our emotional well being. And it actually increases our stress. It decreases our resilience. And unfortunately, the quality of the same decisions that we have to make decline. And I want to throw in my own story here. It's so and first off, I must say that it is ironic that I was asked to speak about balancing leadership with self-care, because I am no expert. We don't always get it right. So I'm going to share with you when I got it wrong. 2023. 2023, I got it wrong. From about June to December, self care was just an afterthought. No, I shouldn't say that, because I had a hard 6 months, a lot of decisions. And I should say I hold a number of leadership roles, both in my personal and my professional, and my volunteer activities and whatnot. A lot of leadership roles, and so they coalesce. And one of the things I'm a strong proponent of is vacation. I push my team to take vacations, and I myself try to model that by doing at least. And we have people who take 3 days here, 2 days there. I don't believe in that. I think you need to take it when you get into the point where you realize I need to step back. But we must always plan annual vacation that spans at least 2 weeks long, so that we can recharge and then come back, right? So I always try to take at least 3 weeks consistent vacation at some point in the year. And then last year, I did take this vacation scheduled, and it was scheduled at such a lovely time because, in addition to managing my own portfolio, I was managing the portfolio of another team member who had gone on leave before me. So, it was a lot. And I went on vacation, and here's how things cascaded. In the first week of the vacation, during that time, I was supposed to be preparing to leave the country. Instead, I was down in bed for the entire week with the flu. And then I left the country. And when I left the country, on 2 days prior to returning, I learned of the passing of a beloved family member. And it was an unexpected passing. I was unfortunately out of the country at that time when Carl had their big pilot strike. So then I was stranded. I was stranded, right? And when I returned, we had a lot of problems with. I returned with about a week left on my vacation to run around with family to get things prepared for my family members' funeral and whatnot. And then I returned also into an organization that was dealing with a number of issues. So that period of time that I had carved out for my self care was actually eroded by me still having to make quite a number of decisions. And while I was on vacation, my team members continued to communicate with me. So I was essentially working just from a different location. So when I came back in, instead of being relaxed, what I was strung to the point that a rubber band can go no more. And I continued to operate like that until November, when I said to myself, Dion, you just need to take a few days off and don't open that laptop and just, right? So that's what I did. I took
Yes.
3 days. I read, I watched TV and whatnot. My daughter was in school, thank God, right? And so I got to spend a little time with myself. Did it wholly help? No. However, it helped to some extent. And I'll tell you why it didn't help. Because as leaders, we have to be deliberate about our self care. It doesn't just happen during vacation. It must be a
Yes.
daily, deliberate practice. And we need to understand that when we prioritize our well being, it's not only benefiting ourselves, it's benefiting all of those who we are charged to lead. And because a leader who is well rested, who feels energized, who feels emotionally balanced, is better equipped to make decisions, to
Yes.
communicate effectively. Because trust me, I was always on the brink of snapping
Mm.
at someone, right? Because I was not taking care of myself. And also to inspire others. We can't inspire others if we ourselves are burnt out. When
Mhm.
we also model healthy behaviors, we create a culture in our organizations or whichever teams we're in that also value self-care. We
Yeah.
we encourage others to prioritize their well-being as well. And we must constantly understand that self care isn't selfish, it's an investment in effective leadership. So it's an investment in yourself,
Hmm.
it's an investment in effective leadership, it's an investment in your team, and it's an investment in your organization. So the crux of the matter, how do we do it? It must be daily and it must be deliberate.
Hmm.
So, our first thing is to always ensure that we carve out time in every single day, even if
Hmm.
it's 10 minutes, to step away, and then to step back. How do we do that? Remember, the leaders are persons who are constantly making decisions. So we now have to build a level of trust within our teams to the point where we can delegate to them so that all the decisions no longer fall on our shoulders. We have trusted persons who are making decisions for us and with us. So that takes away some of the burden. So now we can step away a little.
Wow.
Yes.
Let me
And
tell you something, Dion. You are dropping some nuggets this morning. Yes, yes. And listen, one of the most valuable things that you have said is that self-care is not being selfish. Because
yes,
when we take care of ourselves, we are also helping to take care of those around us. That's just remarkable. Yes, because you're breaking that myth. And
that
when
is
you
correct.
talk about it being daily and deliberate, that also is valuable because we feel that we can just go hard the entire week and then on the weekend take a break. But we don't know what we've been doing to ourselves for that entire week.
Yeah.
So it is really wonderful that you talk about it being a daily and deliberate effort. Yes. And we have to be
Right.
intentional about it.
I
Yes.
think also, I think also, Georgia and Dion, that I think there's a bit of a myth as well that if we take time for self care or well just we don't have time for it, we won't be productive. And
Mm-hmm.
I think your whole story um, would have mentioned the different reasons that you are, in fact, more productive when you
Yes.
choose to take some time because
Yes.
you have the patience, you have the mental capacity to listen, to be more effective in your decisions and whatnot. And I'm also hearing at the end there that you were mentioning developing people
Mm-hmm.
by allowing them and empowering them to also make decisions.
Yes.
However, keeping in mind that you are also making an example for them. So ensuring that they too have cultivate the habit of ensuring that they are also taking care of
Yes.
themselves. And
Right.
it sounds like, I mean, I don't know if you want or can share like a couple of things that are your daily ways or practices so that I mean, I think we all know what they are, but it might be nice for you to share now that you've gone through that 2023 horrible experience. What are the daily things that you stuck with or have been sticking with now that is working for you?
Yeah, and I think the lovely thing about the time we're in now is the number of productivity tools that we have. So,
Mhm.
and also productivity methods, right? So there the Eisenhower method and the uh, prioritizing and those kinds of different methods. And I have developed the Dionne method. So I have a productivity tool that I use, and as soon as something I remember that this task that I have to do or an email comes in, I schedule it. So I drop it into that productivity tool, and that's the day I'm working on it, not before. So it really has helped me to balance what I do in my day. I have also made a list of the things I should not be working on,
Mhm.
because we try to work on
Mhm.
everything, right?
Right.
That's
Yes.
why we have team members, and we think we don't understand that we're doing them a disservice when we don't pass their
Right.
responsibilities to them. We're
Mhm.
not helping them to grow, as well as sometimes they feel like, why is she doing my job?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
So those
exactly.
are two of the things that I have been very firm on. In addition to that, from a purely self-care perspective, I shared with Georgia that when my daughter leaves, one of the things that I try to do is to have my first cup of coffee while reading a book, because I feel like that settles me, it grounds me to be
Mhm.
able to now face the day. And everyone does something different. Some
Right.
people don't touch work until they get their hour workout in, they go to the gym, they do whatever helps to ground you before you start the day. That is what you need to do.
Yes,
Excellent.
I,
Excellent.
I
And
agree with the grounding.
yes, yes, Dion, and I appreciate the point that everybody is different. So a different rhythm will work for different people. And what is your rhythm? This is what we want you to encourage you now to find out what is your rhythm? What is going to work for you? How are you going to be taking care of yourself? Is it that cup of tea in the morning or a cup of coffee? I'm a tea girl. Dion, you're a coffee girl.
Yes,
Emily,
yes.
what are you?
Coffee.
A coffee girl. Okay, there you go. Some people that nothing hot for them. So if you want a cup of juice and that works for you, that's fine. Some people cannot get their day going without their meditation, their morning meditation, and that's wonderful. So find what works for you. Do it daily and be deliberate about it. Dion, it was such a pleasure having you. We
Thank you so
really
much.
enjoyed this conversation this morning. And Emily,
Yes,
you and I are going to be talking further about what we are doing to take care of ourselves because as coaches, we help people and we encourage, and we question them about how they take care of themselves. So it's important for us also to be taking care of ourselves.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Dion, thank you. And I appreciate especially what you said. It's interesting that we asked you this topic because it was so topical. And I
Yes.
smiled to myself because I always feel like there's no coincidences. Everything seems to happen because we
Yes.
just kind of went through and we said, um, Georgia said, Dion would be perfect for this topic. We didn't even know that you had such an experience and it would have made it even that much more personal for you as well as
Yes.
able for you to share from your own learning. So thank you again for being open and sharing that story with us as well. So yeah, so this is on you now, the audience. Whether you listen to this live, you listen to this after the fact, let us know in the comments. What you decided about self care. What have you thought about it? What are your practices adequate? Are there things that you feel you need to think about differently or try different things in order to feel that you have that balance, that grounding, that allows you to be effective in making your decisions day to day and being effective as a leader for yourself, your team, your family, your community, wherever you are leading. So thank you again and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Dion. Take care,
Thank
ladies, and have a
thank you
wonderful
for
week.
having me.
Okay. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.